Hi, John Young again. Just a quick intro to the part two of our interview with social media expert Danny Gardner from GlaxoSmithKline. Terrific interview, and we hope you're enjoying it and learning something.
And how do you share that data out to those different disparate teams? Because, do they have different platforms that they're working in? Do they have different, business visualization tools and that sort of thing?
When a lot of people start by sharing these insights, they lean on PowerPoint. And early on, PowerPoint was a fantastic way to communicate these insights. Because when I had to think about, when we first started, we started with nothing. We started with a listening tool, no decks, no nothing, no insights, no queries. And one of the things I basically had to do was figure out how can I get this information, teach people very slowly and hopefully quicker over time, what this data is, how we can use it, what's been said, what's not being said. And PowerPoint was, obviously one of the most popular business tools in the world, right up there with Excel and Microsoft Word. And so I thought, okay, well, this is an easy way for people to understand, and for me to use my skills in data storytelling to say, hey, this is a format you're used to consuming. This is our data. Inspires interest and curiosity. And I think that worked. That's a snowball effect. And so, over time, those decks became more helpful for us just to communicate this information, interchangeable slides and formats and data visualizations. It's amazing, actually, how impactful your simple bar chart and line graph are. And now we've reached the stage in our team's maturity where we can now start to get this in the hands of more people. So the big tool we've been using is Power BI. Another Microsoft tool. We're a big Microsoft customer. And we have existing systems with Power BI. And so that decision was clear as day for me. People know what Power BI is. There's existing systems that feed in data. If we had to, we could migrate over what I do in a vacuum into a larger system. That makes sense. People are familiar. People are used to the data by now. And that's kind of where we are. We don't have a full, company-wide access tool. I haven't met many companies that do, which is a good sign because it means that everyone's kind of struggling with the same things. And I have anywhere from 400 to 500 stakeholders, not all at once, but there's a lot of different people that could use this data. There's actually more than that. Just people I don't interface with every day or at all that could be using this data. I think that's the challenge of being in a big company, is that word of mouth works, but it's slow, right? And it requires constant due diligence. And that's honestly been one of the biggest keys to our success in getting this in the hands of more people. But to answer your original question, John, the most effective communication means were PowerPoint and Power BI, everyday products that people can use.
You talk a lot about some of the innovation you've been able to bring for your business. Now, I actually, I think you started kind of rolling into like, what does the future look like? What does the future capacity look like for using social intelligence to impact your business? So, for instance, how do you see social intelligence impacting GSK 5 years from now, or even for businesses in general?
Unfortunately, I couldn't tell you what the future for us looks like in 5 years. I would hopefully like for it to be sooner than that, but I would like to have some kind of enterprise-wide solution for this data, right? Anyone of any skill level can go into a platform that they have saved in their browser, that's single sign-on, doesn't require effort, and they can easily click around and say, hey, I want this brand or this category. Show me the insights, right? And I think that's also addressing an issue that we have around resourcing. There's just not enough people to do. To run an effective social listening team at a company this size, you'd need like 50, 60 people. And there's just no way we would ever do that. But I think it's a great goal for me to have in mind, because then it also kind of forces us to say, well, we need to think about technology and how this can help democratize some of that work. And so we have a wonderful team of insights and analytics professionals that know our categories a heck of a lot better than I do, right? I just need to be able to get this data in their hands and surface these insights, let them come to conclusions, let them make recommendations, lower the barrier to adoption and kind of shorten the learning curve for them when they come into a tool. So that's what I'm hoping we could get to, at least in the next maybe like 2 to 3 years. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we need to do. And that includes branching out into other markets. The US is understandably a really rich market for social media. Most of the online content on social media comes from the US, right? And that's great for us, but what if we want to do social listening in Germany or in Russia? We compete in 100 plus markets in the world. And while not every brand may have a mention in every country or every market, that doesn't mean we shouldn't try, right? And that doesn't mean we can't build awareness, right? Because there's other tactics we're using in the company and in social media where we want to raise awareness, right? I would love to see us have 50,000 mentions, a month for, whatever brand in Nigeria or in Romania, right? Or any other place we do business where it was 0 or maybe like 100, 5 years ago. Social intelligence is going to mature. Social media as a consumption and media format is going to mature. It's going to be available to more people in other markets. And that's something that, we need to keep up with.
Just a follow-on question there. Do you envision brand teams? Because you spoke, for example, of the 30 large brands, consumer brands. Do you see brand teams evolving so that there might be a social intelligence team dedicated to a brand and then another one dedicated to a different brand over here?
So we're broken up by region. So I'm in the Americas region. And so I have my commercial colleagues who are basically the US marketers that I would work with directly. And we've thought about that. Because there are some digital folks in that organization too that could easily have social intelligence in their remit. And I think it would be a great idea. That's actually part of what my roadmap would be, is to have basically more people on my team, right? I think we see similar structures where, there's a dedicated category person for digestive health, right? That's 3 brands right there. Respiratory, that's another 5. I think that's a very real question. That's something that I've raised and something that I think we should entertain and think about, right? Can we do more work if we just have more people, right? More experts for a business that's this big? There are companies smaller than us that have more people doing this. And, I think that's been, kind of a case that I've been building up, is that, hey, this is what other companies are doing. This is what we need to think about doing. You get to a certain point where, having one person, you can't grow anymore, right? There's only so much one person can do, and one combination of technology and a person can do. And so that's where I thought about it too, right? There could very easily be a team that reports to me that's digestive health, pain, respiratory, basically all our business categories. And since I've worked across all of them, I would oversee it all. And so that's kind of in my mind something I'd love to work towards. I think I've seen other similarly structured teams. And I think that's also been a huge call to action for me, even just beyond my role here, but in industry, is that how can we drive better education and better prepare the next generation of these analysts and these social intelligence professionals to be the best they can be. They need to learn from the folks that you have on this interview series, right? The people that have been on the front lines, that have lived through it, that have been in this industry a heck of a lot longer than I have, and that could help build up, the leaders of tomorrow, and specifically in this field, because this field is going to be bigger, right? And if the education and the talent can't keep up, we're in big trouble, or we're going to hit roadblocks. So that's kind of, a long-winded explanation of my vision, some of my objectives here for us at GSK.
What are some of the hurdles maybe that you're facing now in terms of maybe achieving that vision, or even some other objectives for your team?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think it's just the breadth of responsibility. We have so many brands. So, when you're one brand, and whether that's your corporate brand or whether that's brands you own or sell, there's obviously a lot of different elements to that brand. And I've seen that in a vacuum for all our brands, but you multiply that by 30, even if you multiply that by 6, that's a lot of work. When you think about 30, I mean, it's a ridiculous amount of work. And that's where, I think I've really run into challenges, is that I'm just spread so thin. I can't always do the deep dive work that I need to do because I'm spread thin and need to do the bare minimum to keep our entire business informed, right? That's kind of the opportunity cost and the trade-off that I need to make. And it's not easy to do, because sometimes I really want to work on something that's cool or something that interests me. But I also have to remember, hey, I look out for the interests of this company, and I need to be cognizant of everything that's going on in all our brands. And that's just one market. If you look globally, there's even more. We sell some of our brands in other markets, but some of their names change. Some brands are only sold in other markets. So there's a challenging dynamic as I've started to get, I've been more involved in some of the global conversations we're having, because there's no one else in our department that has my role, which is exciting, because I think we could obviously do a lot of this globally. And I know you guys have spoken to other people that do it globally. That's something we're trying to do, but it's a challenge. We don't have the resources to run some of this stuff in-house. We don't have the expertise to run stuff in different languages or have enough expertise on how to go to market in China, on a heavily governed market, but a market that beyond social media is super important to us. My priorities aren't always aligned to the business, and that's just by nature of what social media is. And I think China is a great example. We'd love to do more business in China. The rest of the business is, I can't, because there's certain restrictions and limitations. And I've actually been doing a lot of education myself around, I've always shied away from China. I think a lot of teams do, but I'm trying to figure out, how we can best approach and compromise on how we would go to market there specifically. But the challenges basically boil down to resources, time, education, expertise. I find that there's so many different things that I don't know how to answer. And that's a great challenge to have, because, it keeps me engaged, right? There's always something to solve. And I think there's some cases where, you're doing really repetitive work, refresh report, refresh metrics, refresh benchmarking, right? And a lot of this stuff, it's important, but it's not the cutting edge work that we need to do as a company and as an industry.
You're also too, you're in quite a regulated industry as well as it is too. I'd be interested to learn too about, how much does that impact your ability to glean insights and share insights across your organization? Is there much that your industry regulation and governance impacts that by?
There is no harder industry to do social listening in than prescription drugs and biopharma. Not even close. And, not only because it's the most difficult content to read, but because it's highly regulated. You hit that right on the head, Michael. And, I think the first thing that jumps to mind is adverse events, right? There's an legal obligation we have as social listening teams and as a company to report adverse events when people take certain products and certain drugs. When we think about social listening, we think of it as a really cool thing, right? We want to do cool things and be on the cutting edge and be the cool, flashy team, right? We don't want to be, reporting adverse events, which everyone in the company is obligated to do and does it the same way. And that makes it difficult, but it's really, really important. And when you work for those companies, you definitely appreciate it. That it's really important obligation you have to the company's patients and the consumers that they serve.
Before we sign off on this too, I wanted to see, are there any other thoughts or notes or anything like that you want to share?
Any notes? I don't know. We totally talked about a lot, and thanks again for having me on, guys. This is always fun to do. I'd like to see better image and text recognition. I think there's been a lot of instances where people share pictures, there's no text, and sure enough, there's our brand, and it's got 50,000 retweets. And, the only time we flag it is when someone tags us, which is great that's a phenomenon that people do, right? Is that people want brands to engage or tag brands. And some of it's inadvertent, but, that helps us. All people, I only need one person to flag it to me. That's in my tool, but it's an image, right? And I think about the challenge around that, and especially in sources like Instagram, which are notoriously difficult to work with for reasons that are understandable. But images, I think, are so impactful, and there's been a lot of different providers I've tried to speak with, or have spoken with rather, around image recognition, right? And that are able to use some wonderful technologies in machine learning and image recognition, because machines aren't perfect, right? And they need more training data, but that training data is hard to get at. And so that's a challenge for us as an industry, is that, right, how do we make these technologies better if we can't train them, right? And if we're not able to identify, hey, in a picture, this is a person, at a park walking their dog, right? We're able to identify and convert some text form into a table that we can export, that we can analyze, that says, hey, when we looked at these 50 pictures, Advil was in 10 of them. Or Motrin was in 6 of them, right? There's a lot of different things, and it was also paired with, I don't know, whatever vitamin brand they use. Right? There's a lot of insights we can basically gather from using technology like that to tell us what we would otherwise need to look at every single picture to be able to pick out. I would love to see the technology in the space get better. I know there are a handful of companies working towards that, but I've yet to see a solution that's worth us investing heavily in that could unlock a competitive advantage for us there in image recognition.
On behalf of Nichefire, this is John Young signing off to say thank you for watching part 2 of our 2-part interview with Danny Gardner from GlaxoSmithKline. Also with me was Michael Howard, CEO of Nichefire. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed it.